I have the great pleasure of introducing our next panel. It's on how to build a modern brand by looking at the past. And this session is focused on the Rowing Blazers growth story. Founded by Jack Carlson, Rowing Blazers has become an iconic brand in 5 years. But like many brands, it's not all been up and to the right. They've had some bumps along the way and learned some valuable lessons. So today, we're going to learn about their story from Omair Tariq, CEO of Cart.com, and Scott Geftman, president at Rowing Blazers. Before founding Cart.com, Omair previously served as CFO and COO at Blinds.com. He played a key role in scaling the high-growth e-commerce startup prior to their acquisition by Home Depot, and subsequently served as a key member of the HomeDepot.com leadership team. Please join me in welcoming Omair to the Commerce Next stage.
Me here, and great to see you all. So just a little bit about my background. I started my career in building brands and building retail for a company called Blinds.com when they were about a $18–20 million a year direct-to-consumer company selling blinds online. If you think selling clothes online is hard, try selling blinds online. It's really hard. And I joined them because this was an early-stage startup, and prior to that, I had been an entrepreneur, and I didn't really want to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted to be in an entrepreneurial environment for a period of time, and I found this really small company where I got to be employee number 27 and was brought on to be their CFO and COO. It was a really interesting problem we were trying to solve there because we needed to scale the business, dominate the market with the technology that we were building in-house. Over the next 6 years I was there, we took the business from 20 million to about 400 million. We had, at one point, about 60% of the custom blinds online market share. People buy that many blinds online. I'm still shocked at that. At the end of 2020, after scaling the business through sort of like unbelievable velocities, we had this sort of really amazing opportunity to be part of Home Depot. We actually got acquired in January 2014 by Home Depot. It was a pretty big day for all of us at the leadership level. And you kind of build a brand and you grow a company and you have your exit, and then you kind of get there and then you realize, okay, what's next? And nothing really changes in your life. So instead of sort of hanging my hat, I decided to continue on the journey with HomeDepot.com. And around this time, Home Depot actually was battling its own digital transformation challenges, where they were about a $100 billion company, but online was only about 2 million for them. Sorry, 2 billion for them. If it was 2 million, it would have been really bad. Scratch that. So it was about 2 billion, and they really wanted to grow that because they knew where the world was going. Amazon was sort of emerging as this marketplace that was selling everything, including stuff that Home Depot was selling. So they gave me a little bit of a two-pizza team and said, hey, go figure out how do you sell configurable products online. And over the next 6 years, we grew the HomeDepot.com business to about $20 billion. And in that journey, it was pretty fascinating because taking Blinds.com from about 20 million to 400 million, and then being part of a $100 billion corporation where your $2 billion sort of unit goes from 2 billion to about 20 billion, you learn a lot about scale. You learn a lot about how things break and how bubblegum and duct taped your retailer and brand infrastructures are, how nothing is really connected. Everything is sort of messy, and you try to solve for marketing and customer acquisition, and then your conversion goes down, and you try to solve for conversion, and then your shipping goes down, and you're shipping products in 15 days, which nobody cares about it anymore, thanks to Amazon Prime. And you're trying to optimize this end-to-end infrastructure as a brand and as a retailer, and you realize that, man, not only is it really hard to build great products and get people's attention and build a brand, but the actual operational execution of connecting the infrastructure is really, 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 really hard. It got so hard that I quit Home Depot to start Cart.com, where I was like, man, if we could actually figure out a fully interconnected, vertically integrated infrastructure for every brand in the world, where everything sort of just came together in a beautiful circular way. It doesn't actually work that way. There's a lot of, still a lot of squirrels in the background and bubblegum and duct tape. But what we've built at Cart.com is basically an infrastructure as a service for every brand in the world. And really the problem that I set out to solve back in November 2020, around Thanksgiving is when I left Home Depot, was that, man, if we could actually build this fully interconnected infrastructure where if a brand wanted to use marketing services or have a platform that scales or fulfillment capabilities that gave them cheaper shipping, faster shipping, ability to optimize their sales on marketplaces, get access to Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Target, and do all of those things in a singular one-stop place, we could build something really interesting that helps catalyze brands. And today, we are very, very, very happy to have about 6,000 brands that work with us. We've been around for 18 months. So, I sort of keep getting into these very high velocity situations and having to figure out how to scale companies in a very, very, very quick manner. But what's been really fascinating building this journey has been how our customers have felt about this solution, where they usually come to us and say, hey, I have one problem for you to solve, and then it slowly evolves into, as they start scaling and growing, into multiple problems, and Cart.com kind of helps them along the journey as they continue to scale. It's a really interesting problem because what I realized is that any brand or retailer goes out of business for one of three reasons. One is they don't find product market fit, where their product is just not liked by anyone. But let's say you find product market fit. The second reason they go out of business is because they can't operationally scale their business. They're unable to solve the technological and operational challenges that they have in order for them to serve their customers properly. And then when they're able to do that, and the brands that do actually conquer that, the third reason they go out of business is they just run out of capital to continue to grow. And what Cart.com wants to do is really solve number 2 and number 3 for every brand in the world. So today, we actually have a customer of ours who has been with us for a period of time, a very, very, very iconic brand, who has won, actually, I think, fastest growing D2C brand 2 years in a row. Let that sink in, right? Fastest growing direct-to-consumer brand 2 years in a row in a time where everything has been growing 100%. So I'm just very, very, very honored here to welcome the president of Roaring Blazers, Scott, to the stage. And we're going to talk about scale and getting big. Scott.
Hi.
Alrighty, Scott. Do you want to maybe just give a quick intro and then get into the Q&A?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me, Omair. Thanks, Commerce Next and Cart.com. I am Scott Geftman, president of Roaring Blazers. Roaring Blazers is actually today a portfolio of brands, but started as one brand about 5 years ago by Jack Carlson. I was introduced to the brand actually as an advisor. I was an investment banker for 9 years, and I helped the company raise its Series A, so to your third point about capital. I've been with the company full-time now for about 1 year, and I handle everything, I like to say the not-so-sexy stuff, so business, growth, contracts, and operations. So really not too dissimilar to your background, although I've yet to grow a company from 20 million to 400 million or work with billion-dollar e-commerce platforms, but hopefully we're getting there. And yeah, Roaring Blazers has been one of the fastest growing direct-to-consumer brands for the last 2 years straight in 2020 and 2021. We work with Cart.com primarily as a fulfillment partner. They've been great partners. Yeah, and it's been super exciting, but thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So Scott, tell me a little bit about the journey over the last couple of years, right? So how did you guys, as you start realizing that you're onto something that can become really big and a mainstream idea, and people want it, and they want it again and again and again, what are some of the things that you experienced in the early stages, and then, as you grew bigger, did big company come with big problems, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like Rowing Blazers is in this unique stage where we're kind of post Series A, so we have raised a little bit of capital, but we don't have the resources of $100 million, $500 million, billion-dollar brands and companies, and we've been navigating this rocket ship. So I think we've lived a few different chapters. Really, to Jack's credit, the brand itself has really resonated with our core customers, and that's resulted in significant growth, celebrity following, being able to do really interesting and exciting collaborations with brands much bigger than ours. I think where we are now, it's how do we take that organic benefit and clout that we've established and build kind of behind it, not only in catching up to the growth we've already achieved, but for the next phase of growth. This year has been definitely an inflection point in our organization in that over the last, I think, 9 months, we've doubled the size of our team. We've moved offices. We're opening a new flagship store in New York City. And again, to the not so sexy aspect of the business, we have completely overhauled our supply chain, our distribution, in partnership with Cart.com. We've invested in our ERP system. So it's almost like we're kind of catching up to the growth that we had. And I often say we're kind of going through puberty because there's both good and bad that comes with that. But again, it's been super exciting.
Yeah, it's funny because you realize that flying a plane is really hard, but it's really hard when you're trying to put the engines on while you're 50,000 feet up in the sky.
Exactly.
And it's one thing where you're iteratively building a brand, and we experienced something very similar at Blinds.com where we didn't have the luxury of let's take a quarter off and invest in infrastructure. That does not work, right? So tell me a little bit about if I were to kind of talk about some of the challenges and double click on them, it doesn't feel like customer acquisition has been a big one. Has it been on the sort of converting and keeping and reigniting those customers? Has it been on ensuring that you're fulfilling on your promise? Has it been on just maintaining the supply chain? What are some of the things, what are the top 3 things that keep you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly all of the above, pretty similar to how you described it earlier. It all needs to click for you to run a successful business. And one day it could be customer acquisition, and the next it's your supply chain, and the next it's fulfillment. So it's really kind of juggling and just trying to keep all the balls in the air. I feel very lucky that I get to work with such a great team, and we divide and conquer. I could never do the type of work that Jack does, which is left brain, right brain, totally different. But yeah, I mean, customer acquisition has definitely gotten harder. 5 years ago, even 2-3 years ago, we had the benefit of being the new kid on the block, and that was really cool. And so how do we take that and continue to scale it now that we're a little bit more well known? That's been a very big aspect. Inventory management, it has been something that coming in, having worked 9 years in Excel, behind a computer in finance, never really thought, oh, this would be one of the biggest challenges in running a direct-to-consumer apparel and accessories business. But that's been something that I think our team has gotten a lot better with, and we've become more efficient with our network and capital needs. And then managing people. At the end of the day, I think it's I spend a surprising amount of my time on the people side, as I'm sure you do. Your growth has been even more insane than ours.
People managing is easy, really easy.
But yeah, I mean, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And again, I just feel fortunate to have such a great team working alongside me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, let's talk a little bit about the changing environment a little bit, right? And then maybe just the next 5 years. And I want to be clear. I actually agree with the previous presentation quite a bit when people are talking about, oh my God, there's a slowdown and e-commerce only comped 2%, and I'm like, dude, like 2 years ago, if you do the CAGR here, we grew like 35%. So if we're not growing 25% this year again, like it's okay. Like don't worry about it because e-commerce is here to stay, and digitalization and the new generation is just used to more technology and tech enablement. So this is a trend that's not reversing anytime soon. However, the rising tide that we all saw in 2021, where you could really not make a lot of mistakes because you had so many customers and so much demand, that's obviously changing. Rising interest rate environments where capital is not as easily accessible. How are you guys evolving your business to sort of manage to the new world we're living in relative to 2021, which actually 2021 might have been more abnormal than 2022, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, while we are still primarily direct-to-consumer e-commerce, we are investing in other distribution channels and really ways to become more relevant and have more customer touch points than just Facebook, Instagram, Google, and online. So we had a store, a flagship store in Soho. We're in the process of opening up another one now, also in Lower Manhattan. We are selectively exploring wholesale, particularly internationally, where we don't have the capabilities today of doing it ourselves as well as we do here domestically. And then from the brand perspective, we've grown again from one brand to now 3, and we're in the process of incubating and launching our 4th.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because if we think about what do you do during times when stuff starts getting a little uncertain or slows down a little bit, and people have the tendency of like hunkering down and slowing down and holding on to what you've got, and actually you have to do the opposite, which is as a brand, as a retailer, as an e-commerce company, you have to add more channels, you have to add more product, you have to find ways of holding on to your customers, you have to improve your experience, you have to invest in your infrastructure because it's just easier to hold on to your existing customers and have them keep coming back versus acquiring new customers. But playing on the back foot is like not a thing. Like now is the time when brands need to really think about expanding vertically and horizontally in both the experience as well as the number of places they actually sell.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just give you one example in terms of retention. We've experienced different customer purchase behavior just within our various brands. So Rowing Blazers, which is again known for collaborations and limited edition drops, that customer will be quick to kind of come to the page knowing that if they don't purchase something as soon as we release it, it'll sell out. And so you've got the repeat customers very active. We have another brand, Warm and Wonderful, which has one iconic sheep sweater. And that has been, frankly, more challenging in getting a repeat customer because it's so, today, tied to that one product. So, with Rowing Blazers, just back to your earlier point, it's about expanding maybe horizontally with various distribution channels where, as with Warm and Wonderful, we're thinking how can we add to this hero product and get, engage the customer, particularly the one that already exists, to come back to the site or whatever the distribution channel may be to purchase again.
So wait, people don't want to come back and buy more sheep sweaters?
No, they definitely do. You can't imagine how many sheep sweaters we've sold, but we need to figure out ways.
So look, just before we wrap up, walk me through what the next 3 to 5 years looks like for Rowing Blazers, and how are you guys thinking about the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, in some ways a lot of the same, and in other ways, quite different. We want to kind of live that journey that you lived at blinds.com. And, honestly, I think things are only getting more challenging, not just with customer acquisition, but with the macro environment. So, we've got a very healthy balance sheet. We've got a very strong team. I think we're in a position to grow, but I have to imagine that, just from a macro perspective, things are only getting more difficult than they've been already. So hunkering down, maintaining the authenticity and brand voice that has gotten us to this point. And again, investing both horizontally and vertically throughout the organization and the brands themselves.
Yeah, look, as they say, right, the best way to guarantee an amazing future is to build it yourself, right? So I'm really glad you guys are building an amazing future. And thank you for taking out some time and chatting about your journey at Rowing Blazers. And I'm sure we'll see you guys everywhere in the next few years. And here's to, hopefully tremendous amount of growth and winning the next 5 years of the highest growing brand in the world.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me again. Congratulations on everything you've built.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.